This is Sam, and she has lived with allergies since she was a very young child. So I would love for you to just start off by telling me what allergies you have, what your experience with them has been, and then what it's like to live with them today.
So I, starting from a young kid, developed like head to toe hives upon eating various things. And I remember my mom used to put me in a bath of like calamine lotion. And I just remember the feeling when I was really little of we didn't know what I was eating, but something that my mom was giving me once in a while would just cause me to be so itchy and get these like terrible hives. And my dad actually had anaphylactic reaction to certain legumes. So I had always known about that. He discovered it as an adult, actually. So we did have EpiPens in the house. Like it wasn't this strange concept. Like I did have a parent who, I think at that time it was really rare to have those kind of allergies, but my dad had them. But we didn't, I didn't know anything about it. I just knew that he had this. And when I was maybe 7 years old, I was eating rice off of like a plate of my grandmother's at a fancy restaurant, and she was eating lobster. And I'd never had shellfish because we grew up in a Jewish home, and we hadn't been exposed to shellfish at home. So it's really like only at restaurants that we would eat it.
Yeah.
And I, as a 7-year-old, just hadn't eaten those foods yet. So my lips blew up and my toes blew up. And I remember my mom rushed me to the hospital, and I still have a memory of the ER. So I must have been about 7 or 8. And I remember them saying, wow, she didn't even eat the lobster and she reacted this way. And it like scared me because I didn't even eat the actual food. It was like, it was on the same plate.
Yeah.
And I think my mom took me to an allergist. And then sort of there going forward, I was aware, and I don't remember exactly at what age, but I was very aware that I had a very severe reaction to, and we didn't call it anaphylactic yet, because I'd never had an anaphylactic attack, but we knew that I had a severe reaction to shellfish, peanuts, and tree nuts. That's kind of like, and again, I don't think at the time they got super specific. Like, it's not like they at the time had the kind of testing where they could be like, specifically it's walnuts and cashews, but not these nuts. I think, it was the 80s. My mom's like, you don't eat nuts, you don't eat shellfish. That's it. And so I grew up kind of avoiding those foods. And as I got older, it got a little tougher. Like I definitely had incidences where, you have a couple glasses of wine with your friends as you get older and you're at a table, in my 20s, and you're sharing a mac and cheese, or like you're about to dig in and you realize it's a lobster mac and cheese. Like, so moments like that where you just want to be fun and carefree. And I would always have to be so responsible. I
Yeah.
also had a scare in New York. I don't even think we talked about this, but I went out without, usually I carry an EpiPen and a Benadryl in all my purses or fanny packs or anything. But I was in Manhattan. I must have been about 20, maybe 20. And I was staying with my brothers who lived there. And I went to one of those like ice cream stores where they have soft serve.
Right.
And I knew not to order anything with nuts, obviously. So I saw vanilla, a chocolate, and then I saw like a coffee flavor and a peanut butter. And they share the swirl, but they
Yeah.
have separate sides and they share a swirl. So I remember being like, I love coffee. So I was like, I want the coffee flavor. And I didn't even think that it was next to the peanut one. So I got my cone. I was walking outside on like, I think it was like the West Village. And I started having an anaphylactic attack. That was my first real time. I didn't really know what was happening. So I remember I getting rushed to a stranger. Actually, this is actually a crazy story. So I was having, I didn't know what was happening, but I felt like my mouth tasted metal, and I was like tight in my throat. And I'm like, I feel like this is not good. Like this, I felt panic,
Yeah.
and I didn't know what was happening. I didn't have anything on me. I didn't even have ID on me. And a stranger in Manhattan pulls up and he's like, ma'am, are you okay? And I was like, no, I think I'm having an allergic reaction. Takes me to the hospital right near NYU and stayed with me until I was on an IV of Benadryl and steroids. I don't know if I had a proper cell phone back then. I must have had like a flip phone. So I think I called my brother and my mom, who was in Toronto. My brothers were in New York. And I just had to stay at this hospital for like 8 hours while they observed me. That was my first time ever having to be observed, like really having a reaction and like having them like do the drip of the Benadryl and give me the steroids. And I think it's then that I realized that like I wasn't invincible and I had to start asking more questions, because I used to, before that, I think just like go about it and not ask if this contained any nuts, if there was a chance. So that was really terrifying. It gives me PTSD. And
Yeah.
then since then I've had probably 4 hospital visits. One
Oh,
of which was even recent, like 3 years ago. I was eating, I didn't know I was allergic to legumes, really. I knew not to eat like split peas and stuff because that was the soup we realized that I got hives from as a baby. But I eat all the other beans. And so, but there are some beans that are more, I hate to say obscure, but like lima beans and fava beans aren't as everyday as chickpeas and black beans. So I was eating a dish. It was like amazing. I remember it tasting really good. It was like mashed potatoes infused with like lima beans or fava beans. And I ate the whole thing. I was starving and I was drinking wine. This was like 3 years ago. I just gotten home from a long work day. My husband was putting the kids to bed and I gulped it down. And then I got that feeling again. And I knew that feeling because I'd had it before. I was like, shit, no, what did I eat? Like, I was baffled because I'm like, I literally ate mashed potatoes. And I was like, oh, there's a legume in that I'd never had before. And so I calmly called 911. I was like holding my epi. I pulled the cap off and I gave it to myself because I felt like I didn't have time.
yeah.
And I was okay, I was okay. But had a couple incidences, but I will say I have my husband who I've been with since my 20s, and he's what I call like an adventurous eater. He would literally eat anything. We watch like these travel food shows where they like are cooking red ants. He's like, I'd eat that. Like anything, like you could give him anything and he'll try it. So when you're someone that has a limited diet, whether it's because of a gluten intolerance, celiac, an allergy, whatever it may be, it makes you feel other.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel like you're being that difficult one when you go out to eat.
Right.
And I'm always self-conscious because we are very social and we do love going out for dinners. It's a big part of our social life. And, we enjoy eating. We enjoy trying new foods. I really enjoy dining out as much as we've been in during COVID. Like we would go out 2-3 times a week sometimes, like definitely on the weekend and sometimes once or twice during the week. And I felt like I was always that person at the table, that difficult, like I would dread the moment that the waiter comes over, waitress, and that we have to be like, okay, so I have some allergies, and then you have to like walk them through it. And then sometimes you feel like there's not a communication. And then so the food comes out and there's a heavy sauce on it, even though I said do sauce on the side just in case, because we don't really know what's in it. Sometimes they're like, I don't know what's in it. So there's that kind of dance, I think, that you do at a restaurant. And that's why I love what you're doing, because I think it helps everyone that's involved in the eating experience
Yeah.
to have everyone feel empowered and feel like you're not walking in blind to a situation. Because there's definitely been dining experiences where the staff isn't trained to deal with allergies and they have to go back and talk to the chef and it's a busy night. And like, I feel like I'm inconveniencing everyone at the restaurant because like they're spending so much time at our table when they're just trying to do their job and like get food out to several tables. And then I sometimes feel bad if we're with a party of people and I'm like the focal point because I have to like talk about my allergy, just all of that. And so I'm so thankful that you're doing what you're doing because it changes the lifestyle for people who have, dietary restrictions.
Yeah. And I totally get that because I'm the same way as you. Like, I love to eat out. And so sometimes I'll even like get up and like go talk to the chef like away from the table.
Private, yeah.
Because I'm like, I just don't like, there's when you have like 20 people at a table sometimes.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't want everybody to like look at me and be like, what is she doing? Like, you know?
Like, why is she having like a 1 hour monologue with the like what's happening here? Yeah.
Right, exactly. So you reacted 4 times. Were all of those from like eating out experiences, or was any of that from the home?
Yeah, except for the one time with the takeout, which was like the mashed potatoes.
Got it. That's crazy. Wow. You kind of talked about it a little bit, but what is your biggest struggle with eating out, or like what is your biggest frustration?
It's that I really want to try new things and not worry. I don't want to have to always be so basic because I'm not a basic person. So I like taking chances with my fashion, with jewelry, with beauty. So like that's how I be with food too. And I feel like it's constricting the creativity that's inside of me, that I want to order the weirdest thing on the menu and not even think about it. And I
Right.
want to have it the way the chef imagined it, with all the sauce and all the like extras, and not worry that there's something hidden that could contain nuts or that has legumes that like this the staff aren't trained to know about, that only chef would know and he's busy and or she's busy. um Actually my best experiences have been at those chef driven tasting menus when they really have control over the menu. So I've done 4 of those now, and those have been my most, if someone's like what's your best eating experience, it was those, because they got my allergies ahead of time. They're creating a menu for our table, and they are able to see my allergies and create for me. So I felt like I was on this journey and I never had to ask a question. It felt like it would be like to be normal.
Yeah. To
And I
just
loved it
order.
so much, to just enjoy it and not think, because I knew that the chef was taking care of me and
Right.
there was no communicating. Like it was done. We did it on email. I didn't have to think about it. And I could just enjoy the 20-course tasting menu. And if they were having, lobster with whatever amazing stuff was on it, I was having a mushroom with stuff, but it felt like we were all on the same journey with the
Right.
flavors, and it was really exciting.
Yeah, which I think is super important because I feel like there's this large misconception that people with allergies just want to be catered to, and it's far beyond that. Like we don't want to like be catered to. We just want to fit in. Like we just want
Yes,
to experience it the way that everybody else is.
yes,
Right now, the way restaurants currently have been taught to handle people with allergens kind of isolates you even further because you're trying to make them feel special, make them feel taken care of. And that's like a great start. Like it is definitely a much better improvement than it was when like I was a child and probably when you were as
yes.
well. But I
Oh
think
yeah,
like switching the perspective to make it more like, okay, how can we just make this experience so it's like
yeah.
anybody else's? That's kind of like where the key is.
100%. You nailed it. It's like we don't want to feel like this all of a sudden like 4 staff members are coming over and talking to you and the chef's coming out. Like everyone's eyes are on you and you're like, oh my God, I'm now that person. Like I hate that more than anything. And I'm someone who works in spotlight job. Like I'm an actress. I don't mind being on center stage, and I hate it when
Yeah.
we're dining out. I just hate it. And I'm sure it's annoying over time for like my husband and my friends. Like it's like they hear the same thing over and over again. It would be so nice to just take that element out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Which I think is why the written resources are important because it does extract you. You can kind of like do that process in advance and just like outright at the restaurant. We talked about what the product is and what we're trying to create and the vision for it. So, how do you think that that would affect your eating out experience?
I think it would encourage me to go to different places and to just be more relaxed when I'm out and not sort of dread that experience that I have every single time. Unless I'm going to somewhere where I'm like, they know me. Like
Right.
there's a couple of restaurants in LA where they're like, what's up, Sam? Not allergy. We got you.
Yeah.
But like, even now there's a text chain, like now that restaurants are opening in Los Angeles, outside, there's like this new restaurant everyone wants to try downtown. Like my husband and we have another friend that's like an adventurous eater with her husband, and that's kind of like the things we do together. And I'm always like dreading it. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be that downer person that's like having to like modify, especially when you're sharing
Yeah.
things, right? Then you're like, you guys all share and I'll just do my own thing,
Yeah.
right? This would just your app is just going to change that for people who have allergies and who have food restrictions. It just creates, I think, a better environment and more relaxed for the staff at the restaurant, and then I think for the diners as well. So it's like really helping both sides.
Right, because like if everyone can see the ingredients, then it's like not only are you benefiting, but the waiter who would normally have to like go back and forth between the chef which like takes up their time and their tips and their tables. They can like look at something and know
Yeah.
what the ingredients are just like you would. So it really
It's empowering.
brings that transparency back, which
I
is
hope you
amazing.
do this in LA. It would change the game. Like get every LA restaurant on board.
Yeah, absolutely. LA will definitely most likely be our second location because there's
Awesome.
just like so many people with food allergies there, and a lot of restaurants that are kind of like on that path to really
Yes.
creating an allergy safe environment, which is really good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, do you have any final last thoughts about, your allergies or people struggling with eating out?
I just want to say, food is an expression of our creativity, and, chefs are artists, and their food is for us to enjoy. And I can't wait for there to be a time. And I feel like, the world has been progressing this way, but to not have people with food allergies feel isolated or feel like other, but to have it be this seamless process that, people with restrictions on what they can eat, things that can harm their body, can enjoy the experience without feeling like the odd man out. So I'm really grateful that you're starting to like this conversation and creating this experience for
Yeah.
both sides, because I know that people who own restaurants and staff there also want it to be an amazing experience. They're in the hospitality business.
Yeah.
um, so I think it's just this tool that's hopefully going to continue this change of making it sort of a seamless process, and I can't wait to be able to enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so important because like chefs are artists and I'm an actress as well, so that's like where my passion come from, right? It's like a expression of like what you want to give to other people, and so it's like we want to enjoy that and we want to like be a part of that experience. So I think that like it will just put the social back into like social eating.
Yes, 100%.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. It was lovely
Thank
talking with
you.
you. And I'm excited to hopefully get this in LA soon.
Yes. Thank you.